Okay, Mahadi Emporium Master is a commander deck I built that instantly proved itself to be way better than I thought it was going to be, and it's now one of my 3 favorite decks to play. This deck uses cards I actually own, so if you have something better to replace cards in this list or want to buy singles that you think would be better, you should of course do that. The idea here is simple. You're going to make treasures and crush your opponents with them. Here's how.
Space Coconut.
Mahadi Emporium Master is a 3/3 legendary cat devil that costs 1 black-red. It says at the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each creature that died this turn. This effect includes all creatures and token creatures, so depending on the board state, you can get an absurd amount of treasure tokens at the end step. And since he counts creatures at the end step, you can board wipe and then play Mahadi to get all the treasures from those creatures dying, and still have your commander left over. Before we move on, of course, if you want to see more MTG stuff like this, be sure to like and share the video. The YouTube algorithm hates it when I deviate from my normal videos, so any help to show it that people actually want to see these things will help the channel out quite a bit. Okay, let's talk about the win cons first, because for the most part, those won't change too much. For each of these, imagine that 10 treasures are going to enter the battlefield. Marionette Master will make an opponent lose 4 life for each artifact that leaves the battlefield or dies, in this case, the treasures that you use. Reckless Fire Weaver will deal 1 damage to each opponent for each artifact that enters the battlefield under your control. Ingenious Artillerist will do the same thing, except instead of 1 damage for each artifact, it counts the total number of artifacts and then deals that damage to your opponents. In our example, that's 10. Nadir's Nightblade will make each opponent lose a life, and you will gain a life whenever a token leaves the battlefield. Treasures, in this case, and any other token creatures you might create. Agent of the Iron Throne works if Mahadi is on the battlefield. When an artifact or creature you control goes into the graveyard, each opponent loses a life. Girapur Aether Grid will zap any target when you tap 2 artifacts, so if you gain enough of them, you can simply zap your opponents and their stuff. Revel of Riches is in here, of course, because all you need to do is have 10 treasures by your upkeep, and Mahadi will make that pretty easy. Mob Rule has won me 2 games when creatures get too big, or when you can't get to your board wipes. Ideally, you'd have a sack outlet available to get rid of all of the creatures and get treasure tokens for them. But if you have access to 2999 octopus creatures, you can end things just as effectively. That actually happened. Next are the cards that will create treasures without Mahadi, for both weaponization and ramp. Dockside Extortionist can end the game with the right board state. Ancient Copper Dragon is a beefy boy that will make you an absurd amount of treasure if your opponents don't deal with it immediately. Pitiless Plunderer will make you a treasure whenever a creature you control dies. Marching Duodrum will make treasure for everyone whenever it attacks. Gold Hound is a treasure that can attack and be used as a weird ramp if needed, but if you use it to summon Mahadi, it will also trigger his ability and you get a treasure at the end step. Forsworn Paladin will make a treasure for 1 and a black and 1 life. Hoard Robber will make a treasure when it deals damage to an opponent. Hoarding Ogre will make 1, 2, or 3 treasures on attack depending on what you roll. Undercity Scrounger can tap to make a treasure if a creature died that turn. Zorn will make an extra treasure whenever you make any treasure token. Glittering Stockpile is a treasure, but it can set you up for an explosive turn, saving your treasure tokens to use as ammunition when you need them. Gold Vein Pick and Prying Blade can help kill off creature tokens and make treasure tokens. Horde Hauler is a very bad Dockside Extortionist, but it's pretty resilient to your board wipes. Strionic Resonator can double any treasure-making trigger, ideally either Dockside, the Ancient Copper Dragon, or Mahadi himself when he's about to make a crap load of treasure. Shiny Impetus can redirect a troublesome creature at your opponents, buying you time and making treasure when it does attack them. And Black Market Connection will make a treasure for 1 life, as well as allow you to draw a card for 2 life and make a 3/2 Shapeshifter for 3. Next part of our plan is, of course, the board wipes. Blasphemous Act, Fiery Confluence, Mizium Mortars, Starstorm, and Vona's Hunger are the ones I have available. Meathook Massacre will do the aristocrat thing while wiping the board at the same time. To support the aristocrat side of things, I have 2 creature sack outlets with Viscera Seer and Yeheni Undying Partisan to get rid of creatures, along with Dictate of Erebos and Grave Pact to cause trouble. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep these 4 cards, but time will tell. Next is card draw. Liliana, Dreadhorde General, will create a disposable token and give you cards when your creatures die. Seize the Spoils and Deadly Dispute will both draw 2 cards and make a treasure as long as you discard a card or sack an artifact or creature. Altar's Reap will draw 2 cards if you sack a creature also. Minion's Murmurs will let you draw cards and lose life equal to the number of creatures you control, which in some case can either kill you or, let you survive and have a bunch of cards in your hand. Idol of Oblivion will tap to draw a card if you make a token, and if you have enough mana, which you probably will with all the treasures you're going to be making, you get a nice Eldrazi fatty to cause problems. Skullclamp will draw 2 cards for 1 mana if you have a 1/1 token creature available. Vampiric Tutor will get the last piece to get your win, and with a little bluffing on your part, Scheming Symmetry can do the same for you while convincing an opponent to take care of a problem for the table. Token generators are the fuel for the deck. Hangerback Walker will count as a creature dying itself, and then create a bunch of Thopters to use as you need them to. They're artifacts also, so Reckless Fireweaver and Ingenious Artillerist will deal damage for those Thopters entering the battlefield also. Nadir, Agent of the Dusknell, will get bigger for every token you control that leaves the battlefield, and when it leaves itself, you get a 1/1 elf for its power. This includes exile and bounce effects, so you will still get the elves in both cases. Krenko Tin Street Kingpin can get quite a bit of goblins on the field if it's left alone long enough. Handwire Garrison will spit out creature tokens that will hit your opponents for damage. You can use them as fuel for any of your effects, and if they do die and Mahadi's out, you're going to get treasure tokens for those creatures dying. But if you can get its buddy land out, the Handwire Writhing Township will spit out 3/2 Eldrazi, and you can do some big damage while you make more tokens. Tempt with Vengeance will make X 1/1 elementals and give your opponents the opportunity to make them also. If they do, you get more tokens. Tempt is great here even if your opponents don't make tokens, because those tokens can possibly translate into that many treasure tokens. We don't need too much ramp, so all I'm using is Rakdos Signet and Sol Ring. Lightning Greaves is here particularly for Ancient Copper Dragon. We want to protect it and let it attack as soon as possible, and at 6 mana I might not actually have anything else on the field that an opponent would want to remove. Now, this section is with all of the weird inclusions I have that may or may not be useful, or are simply placeholders for better options. Reckless Barbarian will ramp and get a treasure back if you use him to get Mahadi on the field. Bedevil is the only targeted removal, and now that I'm looking at it, that might be a problem. Impact Resistance will deal damage to any creature big enough to survive a small damage board wipe if you want to keep Mahadi from dying, or it'll turn a big creature's damage into a board wipe for yourself. Undying Evil and Kaya's Ghost Form are here in case Mahadi gets caught up in a board wipe. Soul Salvage and Ghost Lantern are here for when any of your win cons end up in the graveyard. A Ghost Lantern can make any creature bigger if a creature you control dies, but I might simply replace this one with any black recursion spell instead, since we're not really attacking with anything. Phyresis is here specifically for Reckless Fireweaver or Ingenious Artillerist, and the day I get this to work is the day I'll remove it for something better. Winning with 10 Infect this way will be hilarious. Cavalcade of Calamity is here for all the 1/1s you're going to be throwing at your opponents, and then we have the lands. You can use whatever you want, but the only utility lands I have are Westvale Abbey to get a big demon if we need it, and Handwire Battlements to get the Writhing Township if the pieces show up. I almost forgot about Expedition Map. It's there to fish out either the Westvale Abbey or the Handwire Battlements at the moment in the game where I need either one. And that's my deck right now. It's a lot of fun to pilot and has quite a few avenues to win out of nowhere, or otherwise control the battlefield. I'll be adding and changing the deck list as time goes on, because I think with the right tuning, Mahadi can be a decent threat at a casual table. Let me know what you think of the deck, or if you built Mahadi yourself. Sharing ideas will only make our decks better. Like the video if you liked the video, dislike it if you disliked it, and until next time, I'm Space Coconut, and you're welcome.